Daniel Harris stared out the viewport of the shuttle as it approached the massive structure floating in space. The Galactic Council headquarters looked like a giant silver flower with dozens of petal-shaped docking bays extending from its center. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved around it like busy insects. Daniel took a deep breath to calm his nerves. He represented not just himself, not just the United States, but all of humanity. "Ambassador Harris, we will dock in 5 minutes," said the pilot. "The welcoming committee awaits you." Daniel smoothed down his navy blue suit and checked his reflection in the polished surface of the wall. At 42, his dark hair showed touches of gray at the temples. His face looked tired after the long journey, but his blue eyes remained sharp and alert. The weight of his responsibility pressed down on him. 8 billion humans were counting on him. The shuttle slid smoothly into one of the docking bays. With a soft hiss, the airlock opened. Daniel took one last deep breath and stepped through. The docking bay was filled with creatures from dozens of worlds. Some had too many limbs, others too few. Some floated in bubbles of liquid, while others needed special breathing equipment. Daniel had studied all the major species, but seeing them in person made his head spin. A tall, slender figure moved toward him. The Xel'Naga ambassador had skin that looked like polished crystal, catching the light and breaking it into tiny rainbows. His name was Vexer, and he served as Daniel's guide. "Ambassador Harris, welcome to the Galactic Council headquarters," said Vexer. His voice sounded like wind chimes. "Your arrival is most anticipated." "Thank you, Ambassador Vexer," said Daniel with a small bow. "Earth is honored to be considered for membership in the Galactic Alliance." Vexer led Daniel through wide hallways filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds. Many stopped to stare at the human. Some looked curious, others suspicious, and a few seemed openly hostile. "Humans are quite rare here," explained Vexer. "Many species have only seen your kind in data files." "I hope to change that," said Daniel. "Earth has much to offer the galaxy." They entered a massive circular chamber. Thousands of seats rose in tiers around a central platform. Most were already filled with beings of all descriptions. At the highest point sat a group of Xel'Naga in elaborate crystal armor. Their bodies seemed to glow from within. "The royal family," whispered Vexer. "King Zarek sits in the center. Beside him is Princess Lyra, his daughter." Daniel studied them carefully. King Zarek looked like he was carved from blue diamond, with sharp edges and cold, distant eyes. But the princess was different. Her crystal form seemed softer, with a warm golden light pulsing inside. While her father stared straight ahead, Princess Lyra looked around the room with obvious interest. When her gaze fell on Daniel, she tilted her head slightly. Vexer guided Daniel to a small platform. "You will be introduced to the council. King Zarek will speak first, then you may address the assembly." Daniel nodded, his mouth suddenly dry. The room fell silent as King Zarek stood. "Members of the Galactic Council," said the king, his voice booming through the chamber. "Today we consider the application of Earth to join our alliance. This is not a decision to be made lightly. Humans are young. Their technology is primitive. Their history is filled with violence. Do they truly belong among the civilized species of the galaxy?" Murmurs spread through the crowd. Daniel felt his face grow hot, but he kept his expression neutral. This was exactly what he had prepared for. "The human ambassador may now speak," announced King Zarek, sitting down with a dismissive wave. Daniel stepped forward. The chamber seemed impossibly large, filled with thousands of alien eyes all fixed on him. "Distinguished members of the Galactic Council," he began, his voice steady. "It's true that humans are younger than many species represented here. Our technology may not match yours yet. And yes, our history contains chapters we're not proud of. But that is true for all species. What matters is not where we began, but where we're going." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Humans are adaptable. We learn quickly. We solve problems in unique ways. Most importantly, we understand the value of cooperation. Earth is not one culture, but thousands, living together despite our differences. We bring that spirit of diversity to the Galactic Alliance. We ask not for charity, but for partnership. Together, We can achieve more than any of us could alone." As Daniel spoke, he noticed Princess Lyra leaning forward, watching him intently. Unlike her father's cold stare, her eyes showed genuine interest. When Daniel finished, scattered applause broke out. King Zarek looked annoyed. "Pretty words," said the king. "But words are easy. Actions are what matter. To prove your worth, Ambassador Harris, you will participate in the welcome feast tonight. There we shall test your adaptability." The way he said it made Daniel suspect that this test would not be pleasant. But he bowed respectfully. "I look forward to it, Your Majesty." As the meeting ended, Daniel was led to his quarters. The room was clearly designed for various alien biologies, with weird furniture and strange devices. He sat on what he hoped was a chair and rubbed his temples. A soft chime indicated someone at his door. When it slid open, Daniel was surprised to see Princess Lyra standing there. Up close, her crystalline form was even more beautiful, with facets that caught the light like thousands of tiny stars. "Ambassador Harris," she said. Her voice was melodic, like gentle bells. "I hope I'm not intruding." "Not at all, Your Highness," said Daniel, standing quickly. "Please come in." She entered, looking around with curiosity. "I wanted to speak with you before tonight's feast. My father—" She hesitated. "He plans to make things difficult for you." Daniel smiled. "I suspected as much. He will serve foods that are safe for humans but extremely unpleasant to your taste buds. He will seat you next to species that emit odors you find repulsive. It's a childish game, but important to him." "Thank you for the warning," said Daniel. "But why are you helping me?" Lyra's inner light seemed to pulse brighter. "Not all Zelnaga share my father's views. Some of us believe the galaxy needs new perspectives. Human creativity and resilience intrigue me." She moved closer. "May I?" she asked, raising her hand. Daniel nodded, not sure what she meant. Princess Lyra lightly touched his cheek. Her fingers were warm, not cold as he expected from her crystal appearance. "Fascinating," she said. "Your kind feels emotions so strongly, it radiates from you." She pulled her hand away. "At the feast, no matter what happens, show no disgust. Eat what is offered. Smile through discomfort. I will help where I can." Before Daniel could thank her, she was gone, leaving him with the lingering warmth of her touch on his cheek and the feeling that his mission had just become much more complicated. In his years as a diplomat, Daniel had handled difficult negotiations, diffused tense situations, and represented Earth's interests with unwavering dedication. But nothing had prepared him for what awaited in the stars, or for the beautiful alien princess who would change his life forever. The welcome feast was held in a massive hall with a ceiling that showed the stars outside, making Daniel feel like he was dining in open space. Long tables curved in strange patterns around the room. Each section seemed designed for different species. Some aliens sat on chairs, others floated in bubbles, and a few hung upside down from special perches. Daniel was led to a seat at the main table, right across from King Zarek. Just as Princess Lyra had warned, on either side of him sat creatures that gave off strong smells. To his left was a blob-like being that leaked yellow gas with every movement. To his right sat a tall insect-like creature whose exoskeleton clicked constantly. "Ambassador Harris," said King Zarek with a cold smile. "I hope you find our feast agreeable." Daniel smiled back. "I'm sure everything will be wonderful, Your Majesty." Princess Lyra sat several seats away, watching Daniel with concern in her glowing eyes. She gave him a small nod of encouragement. Servers brought out the first course. For most guests, the food looked normal, but Daniel's plate contained what looked like moving purple worms in thick green sauce. The smell made his eyes water. "A delicacy on many worlds," said King Zarek loudly. "I'm told humans find it especially memorable." Everyone watched Daniel. He knew this was his first test. Without hesitation, he picked up what he hoped was the right utensil and took a big bite of the squirming food. It tasted like rotten eggs mixed with sour milk. His throat tried to close, but he forced himself to chew and swallow. Then he smiled. "Fascinating flavor," he said calmly. "Thank you for this new experience." A murmur went through the crowd. King. Zarek frowned slightly. Course after course arrived, each worse than the last. Blue cubes that burned like fire, brown liquid that tasted like gasoline, orange puffs that made his tongue go numb. Daniel ate everything, showing no disgust. By the final course, many council members were watching him with newfound respect. King Zarek looked increasingly annoyed. When dessert arrived, what looked like eyeballs floating in red slime, Daniel paused. "Is something wrong, Ambassador?" asked King Zarek with mock concern. "Not at all," said Daniel. "I was just admiring the presentation." As Daniel reached for his spoon, Princess Lyra stood suddenly. "Father, I believe we have subjected Ambassador Harris to enough of our special cuisine," she said firmly. "Perhaps he would like to try the food everyone else is enjoying." The king glared at his daughter. The room grew tense. Then, to everyone's surprise, King Zarek laughed. "Very well. The human has shown unexpected tolerance." He waved his hand, and a server took away Daniel's horrible dessert, replacing it with a plate of sweet-smelling fruits. After the feast, ambassadors from many worlds approached Daniel to introduce themselves. Many seemed impressed by his composure. The Argosian delegate, a tall being with silver skin, spoke highly of Earth's music. The Trell representative, who looked like a walking tree, expressed interest in human agriculture techniques. Daniel was engaged in conversation with a group of diplomats when Princess Lyra appeared at his side. "Ambassador Harris, would you care to see the stellar garden?" she asked. "It's quite beautiful at this hour." Several diplomats exchanged knowing looks, but Daniel pretended not to notice. "I would be honored, Your Highness," he replied. The stellar garden turned out to be an enormous chamber where gravity was much lighter than normal. Plants from hundreds of worlds grew in floating beds, some blooming with flowers that glowed in the dark. With each step, Daniel felt like he might float away. "You handled my father's tests admirably," said Lyra when they were alone. "Few visitors show such control." "I had good warning," said Daniel with a smile. "Thank you for that." "And for intervening with dessert? Those eyeballs can cause hallucinations in humans." Lyra laughed, a sound like tiny crystal bells. "Father was most displeased with me." They walked slowly among the floating gardens. Daniel noticed how the light from nearby stars filtered through the transparent ceiling, making Lyra's crystalline form sparkle with countless colors. "May I ask you something, Princess?" said Daniel. "Why does your father dislike humans so much?" "We've barely begun contact with the galaxy." Lyra sighed, her inner light dimming slightly. "There is an old prophecy among our people. It speaks of a species from a blue world who will bring great change to the established order of the galaxy." She looked at him intently. "My father fears change." "And you?" asked Daniel. "I welcome it," she said simply. "The Galactic Council has grown stagnant. We need new ideas, new perspectives." They stopped at a viewing platform overlooking a miniature nebula contained within some kind of energy field. Swirls of purple and blue gas formed beautiful patterns. "Your world is being considered for lowest tier membership," said Lyra quietly. "Father is pushing for it. This would limit Earth's rights and essentially make your planet a resource colony." Daniel's hands tightened on the railing. "That's unacceptable. There are other members who might support a higher status for Earth, but they need convincing," said Lyra. "You'll need allies in the council." Daniel turned to her. "Like you?" Lyra's inner light pulsed brighter. "I can help guide you through our politics, but I must be careful. Father watches me closely." She looked around before continuing. "Meet me here tomorrow night. I'll bring information that might help your case." As they walked back, they encountered a group of council members. Among them was Vexer, who looked at Daniel and Lyra with interest. "An unusual pairing," commented one delegate, "a being with 4 eyes and blue skin." "I am simply showing Ambassador Harris our cultural treasures," said Lyra smoothly. "Of course, Princess," said the delegate with a knowing smile. "Cultural exchange is important." Over the next few weeks, Daniel worked tirelessly during the day. attending council meetings and making Earth's case for better membership terms. The negotiations were difficult. Many species viewed humans as primitive, barely worth notice. King. Zarek constantly undermined Daniel's efforts, bringing up Earth's wars and pollution as evidence of humanity's barbarity. But at night, Daniel would meet Princess Lyra in secret locations around the station. She taught him about Xel'Naga customs and the complex web of alliances in the council. He told her about Earth, its oceans and mountains, its music and art, its struggles and triumphs. Daniel found himself looking forward to these meetings more than anything else. Lyra was not just beautiful but brilliant and kind. She saw potential in humanity that many others missed. And though neither of them spoke of it, something deeper than diplomatic alliance was growing between them. One evening, as they watched, a comet passed by the station. Lyra's crystal hand brushed against Daniel's. Neither pulled away. In that moment, with stars shining around them, Daniel realized his mission had become much more complicated than he ever imagined. And much more important. 3 months had passed since Daniel's arrival at the Galactic Council. What began as secret meetings with Princess Lyra to discuss diplomacy had grown into something neither of them had expected. They now met whenever possible, sharing stories and ideas, learning about each other's worlds. Daniel sat in his quarters reviewing trade proposals. The documents showed that under King Zarek's plan, Earth would provide rare minerals and water at fixed low prices while receiving limited technology in return. It was a terrible deal that would make Earth little more than a mining colony. A soft chime at his door interrupted his thoughts. When it opened, Lyra stood there, her crystal form glowing more brightly than usual. "We must talk," she said, entering quickly. "Father has called a special session tomorrow. He plans to force a vote on Earth's membership status." Daniel frowned. "But we're still in negotiations. There are at least 6 more species waiting to speak about potential partnerships with Earth." "He knows," said Lyra. "That's why he's rushing to vote. Several council members have shown interest in what humans can offer. Father fears they might support a higher membership tier." Daniel stood and paced the room. "I need more time. The trade agreements he's proposing would hurt Earth for generations." Lyra moved closer to him. "There's more. I found evidence that Father has been sharing false information about humans with key council members. He claims Earth plans to build weapons with any technology you receive." "That's a lie," said Daniel angrily. "We've been completely transparent about our peaceful intentions." "I know," said Lyra softly. She reached out and touched his arm. "I believe in you, Daniel. I believe in what Earth could bring to the galaxy." Daniel looked at her hand on his arm, then at her face. In the past months, he had come to see beyond her alien appearance. Her inner light seemed to pulse in rhythm with his own heartbeat. "Lyra," he said quietly, "this isn't just about diplomacy anymore, is it?" She withdrew her hand slowly. "No," she admitted. "For me, it hasn't been for some time." "For me either," said Daniel. They stood in silence, the weight of what remained unsaid, hanging between them. Relationships between different species were rare in the Galactic Council. Between a human and a royal Xel'Naga, unheard of. "Tomorrow," said Lyra finally, "you must expose Father's lies. I can provide you with the real data. It's risky. He'll know I helped you." "I can't ask you to betray your father," said Daniel. "You're not asking," she replied firmly. "I'm choosing. The future of both our worlds matters more than his pride." Later that night, they met on a small observation deck that overlooked the vast emptiness of space. 3 distant moons hung in the blackness, casting soft light through the windows. Lyra handed Daniel a small crystal. "All the evidence is here. Father's secret communications, the true resource reports, everything." Daniel took it, his fingers brushing against hers. "Thank you." They stood side by side, watching the stars. The silence between them felt both comfortable and charged with unspoken feelings. "On Earth," said Daniel finally, There's a saying that some things are written in the stars. Meant to be. Lyra turned to him. The Xel'Naga have a similar belief. We say that some souls are formed from the same cosmic dust. Daniel looked into her eyes, glowing with inner light. And what do you believe, Princess? I believe, she said, softly, that the universe brought you here for a reason, Ambassador. Daniel moved closer. I'm not speaking as an ambassador right now, and I am not speaking as a princess, she whispered. Under the light of 3 alien moons, human lips met crystalline ones. The kiss was gentle, tentative at first, then deepening as they gave into feelings that had been growing for months. Lyra's form glowed brighter, illuminating the dark observation deck. When they finally pulled apart, both knew that everything had changed. Whatever happened next, there was no going back. This will cause problems, said Daniel, still holding her close. Many problems, agreed Lyra, but perhaps also solutions. The next day, the special council session began with King Zarek looking smug on his high throne. Daniel sat at the human delegation's small table, the crystal Lyra had given him hidden in his pocket. Honored members of the Galactic Council, began King Zarek. We have spent sufficient time considering Earth's application. It is clear that while humans show some potential, they remain too undeveloped for anything beyond basic membership. I propose we vote now on granting Earth Tier 7 status. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Tier 7 was even lower than Daniel had feared. Before we vote, said Daniel, standing up, I request permission to address recent discoveries regarding Earth's resource capabilities and technological needs. King Zarek waved his hand dismissively. Very well, Ambassador. Brief comments only. Daniel walked to the central platform. With steady hands, he inserted Lyra's crystal into the display system. Immediately, images appeared above the council chamber. These documents, said Daniel clearly, show that Earth's resources are far more valuable than previously reported. They also reveal that certain council members have received misleading information about human intentions. The chamber erupted in confused chatter as actual numbers appeared, showing Earth's true worth to the Galactic Alliance. Daniel continued, displaying messages that proved King Zarek had deliberately understated Earth's potential. Based on accurate information, said Daniel, Earth qualifies for at least Tier 3 status, with full voting rights and fair trade agreements. King Zarek stood, his crystal form pulsing with angry red light. How dare you? These documents are internal Xel'Naga communications. Who gave you access to them? All eyes turned to Princess Lyra, who sat calmly beside her father's throne. She stood slowly. I did, she said, her voice ringing through the sudden silence. Because the truth matters more than politics. Treason, hissed King Zarek. You betray your people for this human? I serve our people, replied Lyra firmly, and the greater good of the Alliance. The king looked from his daughter to Daniel and back again. His eyes narrowed. There is more between you than politics, he said slowly. I see it now. Before either could respond, whispers spread through the chamber. Council members pointed and stared. News traveled fast in the Galactic Council. By nightfall, every delegate knew that something unprecedented had occurred. A human diplomat and a Xel'Naga princess had fallen in love. The council adjourned in chaos, the vote postponed. As Daniel left the chamber, many delegates watched him with new interest. Some looked shocked, others curious, and a few seemed supportive. Vexer approached him in the hallway. You have created quite a stir, Ambassador Harris. No human has ever captured the heart of a Xel'Naga royal. The galaxy will be watching closely what happens next. Daniel knew one thing for certain. The diplomatic mission had become far more complicated than anyone on Earth could have imagined. And his own heart was now as much a part of the negotiations as his mind. News of the relationship between Daniel and Princess Lyra spread through the Galactic Council like wildfire. Some species found it romantic, others scandalous, and a few considered it a biological impossibility. Back on Earth, the media went crazy. Headlines screamed about the star-crossed diplomat and Earth's royal romance. King Zarek was furious. He immediately restricted Lyra to the royal quarters and demanded that Daniel be sent back to Earth. The council was split on how to respond. Many older members sided with the king, but younger delegates saw the relationship as a bold new step in galactic relations. Daniel paced in his quarters, unable to contact Lyra for 3 days. Finally, Vexer arrived with news. "The princess has invoked the right of choice," said Vexer, his crystal form dimmed with concern. "It's an ancient Xel'Naga law, rarely used." "What does it mean?" asked Daniel. "It means she has formally declared her intention to choose her own mate, regardless of royal tradition," explained Vexer. "King Zarek cannot simply forbid it without breaking Xel'Naga law. That's good news, right?" Daniel looked hopeful. Vexer's light pulsed in what seemed like a grimace. "Yes and no. The law also states that any non-Xel'Naga who wishes to mate with royalty must prove their worthiness through the 3 trials of compatibility." "What are these trials?" asked Daniel. "They were designed thousands of years ago when the law was written," said Vexer. "No one has attempted them in living memory because they are considered impossible for non-Xel'Naga." Daniel stood straighter. "Tell me what they are." "First, you must survive 1 full day in Xel'Naga atmospheric conditions without protection. Our air contains crystal particles that would tear human lungs apart. Second, you must demonstrate telepathic potential, which humans are not known to possess. Third, you must enter the memory labyrinth and face the collected memories of Xel'Naga ancestors." Daniel swallowed hard. "And if I refuse?" "Then by law, the princess must accept her father's choice of mate for her. He has already selected Prince Zovak of the Drakkar system." Daniel remembered seeing the Drakkar prince, a cold, calculating being with scaled skin and 6 arms. The thought of Lyra with him made Daniel's stomach clench. "I'll do it," said Daniel firmly. "I'll face the trials." The next day, Daniel stood before the full Galactic Council to formally announce his intention. King Zarek watched from his throne, a satisfied smile on his face. He clearly believed no human could survive the trials. Princess Lyra sat beside her father, her inner light pulsing with worry. When their eyes met across the chamber, she gave a small nod of encouragement. "Ambassador Harris," said the council elder, an ancient being with multiple eye stalks. "You understand that these trials were not designed for human physiology? The risk of death is significant." "I understand," said Daniel, "but I'm willing to take that risk." The first trial was scheduled for the following day. That night, Daniel received an unexpected visitor. Dr. Eleanor Patel, Earth's chief xenobiologist, arrived at his quarters with a team of scientists. "The moment news broke about the trials, we started working on this," she said, opening a case, to reveal what looked like a thin silver bodysuit. "It's an adaptive membrane that should help you with the first trial." Daniel looked at it doubtfully. King Zarek specified no protection. "It's not protection exactly," explained Dr. Patel. "It works by temporarily altering your skin's permeability. The crystal particles in the Xel'Naga atmosphere will still enter your system, but at a rate your body might, emphasis on might, be able to handle." It wasn't much, but it was his only chance. Daniel thanked the team as they quickly fitted him with the nearly invisible membrane and gave him instructions. The next morning, Daniel was escorted to a sealed chamber designed to replicate the atmosphere of the Xel'Naga homeworld. King Zarek and other council members watched from behind a thick window. Princess Lyra stood among them, her hands pressed against the glass. "The trial begins now," announced the council elder. "Ambassador Harris must remain in the chamber for 26 Earth hours, 1 full Xel'Naga day." The air in the chamber slowly changed, becoming thick with swirling crystal particles that gleamed like tiny shards of glass. Daniel felt the first burn in his lungs as he took a breath. The pain was intense but bearable. The membrane was working, at least partially. Hour after hour passed. The crystal particles settled on Daniel's skin, creating a thin, glittering layer. His breathing became more labored. Pain spread through his chest. Several times he nearly collapsed, but the sight of Lyra watching kept him on his feet. By the 20th hour. Daniel was on his knees, each breath a struggle. King Zarek looked pleased. But to everyone's shock, Daniel did not give up. He remained conscious until the final minute, when the chamber door opened and he fell forward onto the normal air section. Medical staff rushed to his side. His lungs were damaged but would heal. Against all odds, he had survived the first trial. 2 days later, still recovering, Daniel faced the second trial. He sat in a bare room across from a Xel'Naga mind reader, an elder female with a pale pink crystal form. "Humans do not possess telepathic abilities," said King Zarek, who insisted on being present. "This trial is impossible." "Nevertheless, we must follow procedure," said the mind reader. She placed her hands on either side of Daniel's head, not quite touching him. "Clear your thoughts, Ambassador. Focus only on my presence." Daniel closed his eyes. For an hour, nothing happened. The mind reader probed gently, seeking any spark of telepathic potential. King Zarek began to look smug. Then, just as the trial was about to end, the mind reader gasped. "There is something," she said softly. "Very faint, but present." "Impossible," said King Zarek. The mind reader turned to him. "It is unusual, but not impossible. This human has a small section of brain tissue that responds to telepathic stimulus. It is minimal, but by the ancient law it qualifies." Later, Daniel learned from Lyra that humans had been secretly tested for telepathic potential when they first contacted the Galactic Council. Most showed none at all, but approximately 1 in 10,000 humans had trace abilities, not enough to use but enough to detect. By pure chance, Daniel was one of them. The final trial loomed largest. The memory labyrinth was a physical structure that somehow contained the collective ancestral memories of the Xel'Naga race. Those who entered would face not just a maze, but the emotional and psychological weight of an ancient civilization's history. "No outsider has ever completed the labyrinth," Vexer told Daniel the night before. "Those who try either get lost forever or emerge broken in mind." "What exactly will I face in there?" asked Daniel. "The fears, prejudices, and wisdom of my people," said Vexer sadly. 10,000 years of Xel'Naga thought concentrated into a single experience. For a non-Xel'Naga mind, I fear it may be too much. Daniel stared out at the stars. "I have to try. For Lyra." The next day, Daniel stood before a massive door made of living crystal. Beyond it lay the memory labyrinth. Princess Lyra had been permitted to speak with him, briefly before the trial. "Remember," she said, holding his hands in hers, "no matter what you see or feel in there, it is not reality. It is memory and fear and hope, all mixed together." "I'll remember," promised Daniel. Their fingers lingered, together until guards pulled them apart. As Daniel walked toward the great door, he glanced back at King Zarek, who watched with cold confidence that the human would fail this final, impossible test. The crystal door swung open, revealing a swirling tunnel of light and color. Daniel took a deep breath and stepped into the unknown. Inside the memory labyrinth, Daniel found himself in complete darkness. Then slowly lights began to appear around him. They were not physical lights, but memories taking shape. The walls shifted and moved, forming passages that seemed to change with each step he took. Suddenly, he was surrounded by images of the first contact between Xel'Naga and other species. He felt their fear of the unknown, their suspicion of anything different. The emotions were so strong they nearly knocked him down. Daniel pushed forward, reminding himself these were not his feelings. With each turn in the labyrinth, Daniel experienced a new chapter of Xel'Naga history. Their wars, their triumphs, their losses. He saw how they had once conquered weaker species, using their advanced technology to rule entire star systems. He felt their shame when they later realized the harm they had caused. Hours passed as Daniel wandered deeper into the maze. The memories became more intense. He experienced the moment when a great plague nearly wiped out the Xel'Naga race. He felt their desperation and their relief when they found a cure. He saw the birth of their current society, built on rules and traditions designed to prevent past mistakes. Then he reached what seemed to be the heart of the labyrinth. Here, the strongest memories waited, the deepest fears of the Xel'Naga people. Before him appeared an image of Earth. But it was Earth twisted by fear, a planet of aggressive beings who would spread across the galaxy like a disease, destroying everything in their path. Danielle saw humans portrayed as greedy monsters who would steal resources, corrupt other species, and bring chaos to the carefully ordered galaxy. This is how they see us, he whispered to himself. This is what King Zarek fears. The false image of Earth tried to burn itself into Daniel's mind, making him doubt his own people. For a moment he almost believed it. But then he remembered the real Earth, flawed but beautiful, filled with people trying to be better. No, said Daniel firmly. This isn't who we are. He pushed back against the memory, focusing on what he knew to be true. Humans were capable of great wrong, yes, but also great good. They could learn, they could grow, they could work with other species to build something better than any could create alone. As Daniel held on to these truths, something strange happened. His own memories began to mix with the Xel'Naga memories. The labyrinth, designed only to share Xel'Naga thoughts, was somehow accepting human input. Daniel didn't fight it. He let his memories flow. Earth's oceans and mountains, its music and art. Children laughing, people from different cultures working together. He shared humanity's struggles to overcome its violent past, its hopes for a peaceful future. The labyrinth absorbed these new memories, incorporating them into its structure. The walls around Daniel shifted again, creating a new path forward. After what seemed like days but was really only 12 hours, Daniel found the exit. He stumbled out of the crystal door, exhausted but clear-minded. The council members waited, in shocked silence. No one had expected him to emerge at all, let alone with his sanity intact. Princess Lyra rushed forward, supporting him as his legs threatened to give way. "You did it," she whispered. "You actually did it." King Zarek stepped forward, his crystal face showing disbelief. "Impossible. No non-Xel'Naga has ever completed the memory labyrinth." The council elder approached. "What did you experience, Ambassador Harris?" Daniel looked directly at King Zarek. "I saw the fear in your people's hearts, the fear of change, the fear of humans." He paused. "But I also shared the truth about Earth. The labyrinth now holds human memories alongside Xel'Naga ones." Gasps echoed through the chamber. The memory labyrinth was sacred to the Xel'Naga. The idea that it now contained human memories was shocking. "He has corrupted our most sacred repository," shouted King Zarek. "No," said the elder, who had connected briefly with the labyrinth. "He has expanded it. This is unprecedented, but not forbidden by any law." King Zarek's face hardened. "It changes nothing. I still forbid this union. As king, I have final authority over my daughter's marriage." "You have no such right," Lyra's voice rang out. "I have completed the legal requirements by ancient law." "Laws can be changed," said King Zarek coldly. "Tomorrow I will announce new legislation forbidding royal marriages to non-Xel'Naga. The council will support me." The next day all delegates gathered for what was supposed to be a recognition ceremony for Daniel's completion of the trials. Instead, King Zarek took the central platform. "Members of the Galactic Council," he began, "while Ambassador Harris has technically completed the 3 trials, I must invoke my royal authority to protect our traditions. I am issuing a royal decree that no member of the Xel'Naga royal family may marry outside our species." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Many looked uncomfortable but seemed unwilling to challenge the powerful king. "Furthermore," continued Zarek, "I have decided that Princess Lyra will enter cryostasis until she overcomes this unfortunate attachment." Lyra stood. "Father, you cannot do this." "I can and I will," said King Zarek. "And as for Earth, I propose immediate sanctions. Their membership application will be suspended indefinitely. Their resources will still be harvested at rates beneficial to the Council, but no technology will be shared with them." Daniel had heard enough. Still weak from the labyrinth, he pushed himself to his feet and walked to the central platform. King Zarek looked down at him with contempt. You have something to say, Ambassador? A plea, perhaps? Or will you finally admit defeat and return to your primitive world? Daniel took a deep breath. He thought of Earth waiting for his report. He thought of Princess Lyra facing cryostasis. He thought of all he had learned in the memory labyrinth about fear and courage and change. What I have to say, said Daniel clearly, is that you are wrong. Wrong about humans, wrong about change, wrong about what's best for your people. King Zarek's inner light flashed red with anger. How dare you speak to me this way? Guards, remove this human. No, said Daniel, stepping closer. The Council needs to hear this. For thousands of years, the Xel'Naga have taught other species about cooperation and progress. But you've forgotten your own lessons. You've become afraid of anything new or different. Enough, shouted King Zarek, rising from his throne. You are nothing but a barely evolved ape. You have no right to lecture me on my own culture. Something snapped inside Daniel. Before anyone could react, he climbed the steps to the king's platform and did the unthinkable. His hand moved in a swift arc, connecting solidly with King Zarek's crystalline face. The slap echoed through the chamber like a thunderclap. A perfect handprint glowed red on the king's blue crystal cheek. Complete silence fell over the council. No one had ever struck a Xel'Naga monarch in recorded history. The guards froze, uncertain what to do about this unprecedented event. King Zarek touched his cheek in shock. You struck me. Yes, said Daniel simply, because sometimes even a king needs to wake up. Before the guards could seize Daniel, Princess Lyra stepped between them. Wait, he has invoked the right of physical challenge. By our oldest laws, a monarch who is challenged must either execute the challenger immediately or acknowledge a legitimate grievance. All eyes turned to King Zarek. To execute a diplomat would cause an interstellar incident, but to acknowledge a grievance from a human would be humiliating. The king looked at his daughter, then at Daniel, then at the council members watching in stunned silence. His inner light pulsed with conflicting emotions. Finally, he spoke. I acknowledge the grievance. A collective gasp went through the chamber. Princess Lyra moved to Daniel's side and took his hand. Then by law you must allow our union, she said firmly, and you must reconsider Earth's place in the alliance. The crystal monarch looked at their joined hands, one flesh, one crystal, and something in his expression changed. Perhaps it was seeing his daughter's happiness. Perhaps it was respect for Daniel's courage. Or perhaps something of the memory labyrinth had reached him too. So be it, said King Zarek quietly. The union is permitted, and Earth will be granted Tier 3 status as originally qualified. 1 week later, Daniel and Princess Lyra were married in a ceremony that combined human and Xel'Naga traditions. Representatives from Earth attended, amazed by the alien beauty of the Galactic Council. And across the stars, billions watched as a human and an alien princess began a union that would change the course of galactic history forever. The handprint on King Zarek's face faded slowly over time. But the story of the human diplomat who married an alien princess and slapped a king would be told throughout the galaxy for generations to come.